Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about power and developers. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, why is it that the people at the top making all the decisions in an IT company are not the developers, when the developers are the people who know the most about the problem? Shouldn't they be the ones who are making all the calls? And the short answer is no. I don't think that they should, because it's not about tech skills when it comes to running a company. Let me explain. So there is an assumption in the question that this subscriber posed, and that assumption is, as I told him, that having the skills to solve a problem is equally valuable to having the skills to create a problem worth solving. Now, this is a little bit, I'm just going to unpack that a little bit, because what I basically mean here is that just because you can solve a problem, that doesn't mean that you know how to get someone to pay you to solve that problem. And there is a world of difference between those two things. If you can solve a problem without getting paid for it, then at best you're going to have a hobby, or you're going to be a person who helps people out for no charge. And a company cannot be run as an idealistic organization, unless of course you are an idealistic organization. But a successful IT company requires clients and customers. These things programmers know nothing about in general terms now, because we're going to touch a little bit on why I think that there's a second assumption here that isn't really in line with reality. But I think that should make sense to everybody, right? A person who can get in money and get customers is a different sort of person from someone who is a programmer who solves the problems of the business. And when you're running a company, the most important thing is money. It's always going to be money. In other words, the only people that should be in charge, and in general terms they are in charge, are the people who know how to acquire money for the company. Now, you as the developer, you are a means to get that money. That's what you are. If you, for the sake of argument, you're just there to code, you have no other influence outside of typing out things on a keyboard, then you are simply a resource. It's no different from having a restaurant and having waiters. You are just there to accommodate a need that brings in money. The person making all the calls is the person who owns the restaurant, because these people have identified that, all right, our main purpose here is to figure out how to get people to pay us for our food. And in order for them to have a nice experience, we're going to have to hire some waiters. And you are the same sort of person. You're just a cog in the machinery. Now, even if you know exactly how everything works, and even if you know how to make tech improvements and all of this stuff, that doesn't really matter all that much if you put that next to the ability to earn even more money. And this is where the miscommunication happens between management and developers. Because as a developer, you sometimes, and probably a lot of the time, feel as if you know what the next best thing is. You have all these technical tools, and you have all these amazing ideas of how you can improve your personal development process, or the process of the company. There are many things that you figure out that could be really useful, and you keep on asking that question. Why isn't management listening to us? Why aren't they just doing as we ask them or as we tell them? Because we know what we're doing, right? Well, they're not listening. One part, most likely, because you don't have a way of talking to them, or they lack the technical understanding to actually understand what it is that you're saying. And if that's the problem, that's not really their fault now, is it? Because you're supposed to be the expert. You're supposed to be the person that knows how everything works. And if you lack the communication skills to communicate to a person who is not technical why the things that you are suggesting is so important, or are so important, well, then it's not really their fault. That's like a doctor blaming the patient because the patient doesn't understand all the technical terms regarding the doctor is using. You have to break it down. And that's that's where this communication thing that I've talked about before comes in and becomes so important. Now, the false assumption here is that you don't have any power, or that the people at the top are always going to be these business people, and in some cases this is true in some organizations, but I will also like us to think about the top IT companies of the world. Now, they all have a common denominator in general terms, and that is that they have people at the top that are both representing the business side, the entrepreneurship, if you will, and the technical aspect, and having a technical vision of some sort, people that are really, really good with IT. And when these people work together, they create the most powerful solutions, because they have both sides. They understand the importance of quality in the software development process, because that is the thing that ultimately is the thing that is going to dictate how good your system, how well your system runs, and how fast you can deliver. And they still have the business side, because you can't just run on tech, because you do have to make money somehow. But when these two are in line, they create the best of both worlds. I will even go as far as to say that some of the most technical, if we're just going to consider like the top people, such as, let's say, Mr. Steve Jobs. Now, this was an individual that had both these elements. He had a clear technical vision of what he wanted to achieve with the different products that he was producing. With that, armed with that technical knowledge and the entrepreneurship, he became one of the most famous people within IT. And I argue that that is for these exact reasons. You need to understand the thing that you are building, and you need to understand how to make money from that thing that you're building. And I'm very sorry to say that most developers don't understand how to make money from their code. All they know is how to write it. So what I want you to take away from this is that I don't think that that it's true that developers have no power. It's just that they have as much power as their decisions and the trust in them allows them to have. What I mean by that is that if you are a code monkey, it does not matter if you know how the system is working and you know what's going to be what has to be improved. Because at the end of the day, the responsibilities of the people in charge and the knowledge of these people is different from your knowledge. They don't know what you know, but at the same time, they know stuff that you don't know, and that's why they are where they are, and that's why you are where you are. If you want to reach that level of influence like they have, you actually can do that, but it comes down to your ability to gain the trust of other people so that they will listen to you and hear you out. And that, in general terms, in a company always comes down to one single thing, and that is, are your decisions going to gain money for the company? If you don't have any ideas or any thoughts or any proof that you produce money and that your ideas actually have a positive impact, then you're not worth anything above your station. In other words, if you're hired to do coding and you're just focusing on coding, that's where you're going to stay. If you are a person such as Steve Jobs and so forth, then have truly innovative ideas that actually make a big difference in the income to the company, you're going to see yourself be getting promoted, and before you know it, your decisions are going to be heard out, and you're going to be consulted on so many topics just because you've already proven now that if you are involved, you actually always gain more money or a more positive outcome for your company. And these are the things that matter at the top, nothing else pretty much. Have a great day.